Welcome everyone, I'm Craig Weaver,
And I'm Brandon Jones.
and this is Down and Dirty. Alright everyone, before we got started this morning, we wanted to discuss something that happened recently. It's an unfortunate thing that's happening in the metal detecting community here recently. It's bashing other diggers. And I know Brant's on the same page as I am, that's just not the way we do things. We're all in this hobby together. Two very, very good detectorists, Dawn Chip Chase and Jocelyn Elizabeth, were featured in an article in a tabloid, and the resulting fallout was just awful. And it's just, to me, it's very distressing. We're all looking to have fun. We're all looking to, just give some information and have a good time. And I don't think that anybody should be bashing anybody.
To me, it's a hobby. I don't think that you can make a living at it. Well, I'm sure there's some people that do, but just get along. We're all in it for the same reason, to have a good time and have fun.
Exactly. And there's just because somebody does something differently than you do to bash them, there's absolutely no reason for that. Mm-hmm. So, that's just our opinion on it. We just want to make that known. Like I said, Jocelyn and Dawn are both excellent diggers. They're excellent ambassadors for this hobby. And just because they happen to be ladies doesn't mean absolutely anything.
Yep.
My wife hunts with us. We've got Sonia. There's just as many great detectorists who are ladies that are men. So
yeah, my wife hunts too. So
there's absolutely no reason for anything like that. So that's just what we had to say on that matter. All right, Brant. Today we're going to talk about why it's important that you know your detector before you go out hunting. And I think one of the big things is what you're looking for is to understand what that machine's telling you.
Oh yeah.
When you go out into the field or out to the yard or whatever. And a lot of people will just grab, a lot of machines, they just pull them out of the box, turn them on, and they're expecting to find Captain's Kid's treasure.
Yeah.
And that's not the way it's going to work, unfortunately. Now, Brant, what do you think would be the first real step in knowing your detector when you get a new machine?
Well, there's a couple of different things that you need to know. Some machines are a beep and dig, which means if there's a target, it beeps, and there's no readout whatsoever. It's no information whatsoever. There's other machines that have a VDI, which is a number system, and for whatever material you go over, it has a number, and then you have to find out what that number means. Some of them actually have the VDI number, and then across the top or along the side or something, it will tell you what it thinks you're about to dig.
Exactly. And there's a lot of different types when it comes down to the way things work. And every detector is a little different when it comes to what the readout says.
Right.
And it's the VDI numbers vary from brand to brand.
And from machine to machine.
Exactly. So just because Ace 400 says that gold is at 50, Brant's Fisher may say, gold's at 20 or something
right.
along those lines. So you just really never know. So that's what's important. One thing that a lot of people suggest, I did it myself when we first started off, was building a test garden. Burying different materials in a spot where you know where they're at, and running your machine over and seeing what it tells you.
Yep.
Now, here's the one thing about a test garden. I've seen people really get upset over and thinking their machine is broken. They'll go out there and they'll bury their targets and they'll go and okay, that silver quarter is ringing up at 75. They get onto the field and they hit a 75 and they've dug a pop can.
Yep.
Everything has to do with the ground conditions.
Yep.
That changes everything. So just because your test garden said that coin was a 75 doesn't mean that every 75 is going to be a silver quarter.
Right. I mean, basically your machine is taking a guess. And, but if you don't dig a 75, then you're going to miss out. So.
Exactly. Yeah, you just never know.
Yep.
And eventually you will learn what your machine's trying to tell you. I mean, Brant is probably one of the best at looking at it. But over the years, Brant, how many hot rocks did you dig before you knew what that picture was telling you?
Oh, tons of them. A lot.
Exactly, and that's the funny thing of it. I mean, just because you know your machine doesn't mean you're never going to dig junk again.
Right.
Everybody digs junk. That's the new motto for the Indiana Dirt Detectives. Yeah.
And we dig a lot of junk.
We do dig a lot of junk, but when you're looking at it, I mean, all machines are going to be. I mean, even the best top of the line machine is going to not be accurate 100% of the time.
Right.
So there's no way of actually saying, well, every time that one number is the same target.
And like on my Fisher, well, most machines, if you catch the corner of a large piece of iron, it's going to tell you that it's a large, silver coin. It'll be a great hit. It'll be a high tone, and you dig it up and it's a piece of iron.
Yeah.
So
we've all done that. I mean, we've dug a lot of iron over the years.
Yes, we have.
And there's really nothing you can do to change that.
Yeah. And you still want to dig those.
Yes.
A couple months ago, I was out and I got a high tone, and it was right beside a piece of iron, and I was thinking, well, it might be a big piece of iron, but I dug it, and it was a large cent. So, and there was a couple other diggers that was with me, and they had missed it. So I assumed that they thought it was a big piece of iron.
Yeah, and then the other side of the coin is that sometimes when you think you have iron or just a piece of junk, it ends up being something really good. We were with Brant one time when he got us a signal, I believe it was 20, out in the field. And now what would 20 normally be on your Fisher, Brant?
That would be like a piece of foil or, something like a foil.
A piece of junk, basically.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, what happened when you popped that out of the plug? What was it?
Which one was it?
That was your cut.
Oh. Yeah, it was a cut 3-cent piece, and that day I did get the half that had the date on it, and I went back about a week later and I found the other half.
Exactly.
So, but a couple of days ago I was out in the field and I got a 21, which is that is super low. That's barely above iron, and I dug it and it looks like it's either a counterfeit $1 gold piece or a token that I've never seen before, but it is made to look like a $1 gold piece. I mean, it's
exactly.
It looks like it.
We'll put a picture of that up for you. Yeah. And that, like I said, that just goes to show you, not every. I mean, you really don't know. And the philosophy we kind of live by: if it's a solid, repeatable target, it's best to dig it.
Oh yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your machine is, what the numbers are, what the VDI is. You dig it if it's repeatable above iron.
Yes, exactly.
And I mean, some people dig even some iron signals also.
Exactly.
So
there are a lot of artifacts out there and relics that from our days long past that are iron. Toys used to be made out of cast iron.
Yep.
And there's all manner of stuff that could. I mean, you could be digging an old gun barrel or who knows? It could be a sword or something like that. And I've never personally found a sword, but and I don't think you've ever found a sword either.
I don't think I have.
No, yeah.
If I have, I put it in my scrap bucket.
Exactly. Sonia found a sword blade,
Yeah.
a saber blade down when she was digging down south, which is a great find.
That's a great find.
But yeah, there's it depends on what you're out there looking for. If you're trying to find out what was on a site, dig everything.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's a nail or it's a giant hunk of machinery. Just make sure you dig it all.
Well, you can learn a lot just from digging nails, because the flat nails, those are the old ones, and I've been out in a field before and got a piece of iron and thought I was on a house site. It was an old fence, and luckily I dug up the iron and checked it, because I would have been there a while.
Exactly.
So
exactly. So that's the thing. If you're not pulling open the earth, you're not going to know what's down there, and that's vital to knowing your machine as well.
yeah.
Get out there in the field and start digging holes. That way, you're knowing what that thing is trying to tell you.
That's the best way to do it.
It really is.
I mean, experience.
Yeah, you're just never gonna. You can read the manual, and don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with reading the manual. I've read every manual of every detector we've ever had, but it doesn't give you the real world experience on that machine.
And just because you have a lower end detector doesn't mean that you can't do better than the guys with the more expensive detectors, because I've went out with guys before that had an $800-900 metal detector, and I had a Ace 250, and I ended up doing better than them because I knew what my machine was telling me. And they might not have had their machine for very long, or never hunted with it much, or whatever, but I usually do pretty good with the lower ends.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with that.
And there's absolutely nothing saying that you're going to go buy a $3,000 metal detector. If you don't know that machine,
Yep.
you're probably going to fail in the field.
Yep.
You've got to learn it. You got to know what it's trying to tell you, and that just gives you, a better edge against things, knowing what you're going to be pulling out of the ground.
Yeah, and it takes time too. It takes time to know your detector. I bought a MineLab Explorer once, and it took me forever. The learning curve on that thing was crazy. But after I learned it, I was pretty good with it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And if when you're out there and you're just, as you're pulling the holes open, you're just kind of logging into your mind. Well, that's what that was trying to tell me.
Right.
And that just it sticks with you after a while. It really does. And then you'll start figuring out, well, whether I'm going to dig that signal or not. And there's nothing saying that you take notes if you have to. Record it with your cell phone, something like that, just to give yourself a little bit more knowledge. If you're not able to get out hunting a lot and you still want to learn that machine well, that's the way to do it. Make sure you're just keeping track of what's going on.
I've seen people on the side of their screen, they'll put a piece of tape, and they'll write on there, okay, a quarter hits like this, or a dime hits like this, or a nickel, or whatever, and that seems to help them.
Exactly. And then, like I said, the other thing is ground conditions, and we saw that very well this year when we were out hunting. As we moved into summer and the dry.
Yeah, it was dry.
It really, when we went for, I think, over a month without any rain, significant rain.
Yeah. And
we went to a hayfield permission we had, and the signals were all over the place.
Yep.
Nothing like we would expect. Now, good stuff came out of the ground.
Yeah, there was some good stuff.
The Civil War token for Brant. You got a large scent?
Yeah, and the large scent, it hit like a nickel and was 2 inches deep.
Yeah.
And it was like, what in the world? So.
Yeah, exactly. And Ryan got a large scent that day. And that was just it's one of those things. You just have to, everything is going to change no matter what. Come springtime, our signals are going to be, who knows what they're going to be. It's going to be crazy.
We'll just have to dig them.
Exactly. We'll dig them all. Well, I think that about covers everything on that, don't you, Brent?
Yeah. Well, today in the coin corner, we're going to talk about the American half dime. The American half dime was made from 1792 until 1873. So, the half dime originally started off as just a test. They were just trying to test a coin, and it caught on. It's 5 cents, so it's good change, good to make change with.
Obviously.
The half dime is made out of silver, and I've shown people that don't collect coins, and they'll be like, well, if that's a half dime, then isn't that a nickel? And it's not a nickel. It's a half dime. Those are silver, and those are a prized possession. So those are good coins. They had them in bust and seated, and I've been fortunate enough to find both. And we'll take a picture of a couple of the ones I found. So.
Absolutely.
So,
and I think it's important to note here that Dan does not have a half dime.
He doesn't have a half dime, does he?
That's his
or a 3 cent.
Or a 3 cent. So yes, I'm Dan. And oddly enough, the very first coin find we had after we met Brant and were hunting on one of his fields was a U.S. half dime.
Yep.
Our very first U.S. half dime. And let me tell you what, considering the size, they're not easy to locate in the hole.
They're not. They're small.
It just so happens that day we had just picked up a Pro Pointer from one of our club members that we had bought from him. And let me tell you what, we were using the Ace 400 at the time. We got a good signal, opened that hole. It took me a good 20 minutes to locate that coin. Mainly because it was in the hole with a handful of square nails.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you were sure you got a good signal, I'd consider really checking it out.
Oh yeah.
Because it could be one of those little boogers down in there somewhere, and you're not going to see it. And oddly enough, if you think about it, we'll put that picture up there. A half dime is smaller than a dime, and a dime is already
pretty small.
Pretty small. Currently, the smallest denomination as far as size in the U.S. currency.
Right.
And a half dime's even smaller, and then, of course, just like Brandon mentioned, the 3 cent piece is even smaller than that, so it makes them even harder to locate in the hole. So, all right. All right. Well, what we're going to do now, we're going to send it over there to the East Coast. Josh from CT Relic Digger has got another good segment for you. Kind of ties in with our main topic in knowing your detector, so we'll kick it over to Josh.
What is happening, YouTube? Just want to take this opportunity to say thank you very much to the Indiana Dirt Detectives. I'm proud to be part of your series, and I hope we keep it going till springtime. But in the same breath, I can't wait to get out there digging. I got cabin fever just a little bit. But anyway, thanks again. Wicked cool. Also, a quick reminder, my 500 subscriber giveaway is real close. I only need like 15 or 16 more subs. So check out CT Relic Digger on YouTube. Alright guys, the only real tip I have for you this week is no matter what machine you have, whether it be an Ace 250 or the AT Max or anything in between, just master your machine. Know all the settings, all the discrimination settings, notch, V-brake, disc, figure it out, run it wide open, all metal mode, and try to figure out what your target is before you take it out of the ground. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to be pretty close. So that, and just don't get wrapped up and consumed on what you're finding or not finding. Go out there and have fun. Just enjoy the hunt. Go out there with a positive attitude and just know that you're going to have fun loving the hobby that you love. And you will. You'll have fun and you'll do really good. So that's it. CT Relic Digger. Thanks again, Indiana Dirt Detectives. See you soon.
All right, Josh, thank you very much. Swing over there to YouTube, check out CT Relic Digger, subscribe to his channel. He's always got a lot of good stuff, and he's doing that 500 sub giveaway. Great guy.
Absolutely.
So check him out, if you get a chance. And also, on a personal note, over on Twitter, we have a fellow digger, Smells Like Silver. His wife was recently diagnosed with cancer. So here at the Indiana Dirt Detectors, we'd like to send out best wishes and prayers to him and his family, making sure that she gets well and gets past all this this nasty cancer business. So if you have a chance, pop over to Twitter, at Smells Like Silver. Pop on there, give him a shout out, let him know you're thinking of him. All right, we're going to go right into our history minute here. And Brant, for today, I chose the Wild West. It's actually one of my favorite periods of time. The Civil War is over. While the East Coast is becoming what I would consider more civilized, cities are booming and things like that, a lot of people are moving out west. Gold was struck, silver was hit, and you got these little boom towns, and there was really no law. And that's really the way it was. It was considered a wild time. The murder rates in these little boom towns were higher than any modern day city. And we all know the stories of the big name lawmen, Bat Masterson, Wyatt Earp, things like that. And the old Doc Holliday, who wasn't actually a lawman, but was involved in some legal issues of his own. But what people don't understand is that eventually that all came to an end. As people continued to move west and the cities became larger, the boom towns became less mining camps and more actual cities with governments and things like that, there was really no place for these rogue lawmen like Masterson and Earp. Now, Wyatt Earp, probably the best known Wild West lawman, eventually moved to California, specifically San Francisco, and he became a real estate agent. He also did prize fights and things of that nature. And I know the movies like to show that he was just this great moral compass for the Wild West, when in fact he actually was not all that, on the straight and narrow. Let's just say, yeah. Wyatt Earp was well known for attacking people from behind. He preferred to club them over the head with the butt of his pistol, as opposed to face somebody. And along with his brothers, he owned several brothels. Was involved in shady card games and all kinds of stuff like that. And when he eventually moved on to California and he was a referee for prize fights, he was actually accused of throwing the fight to let people know, for gambling purposes. So, Bat Masterson tried to take a little bit of a different path. Once he retired from law enforcement, he moved to New York City, and he became a sports writer at one of the newspapers. Now, back in those days, sports writers were not paid all that much. So to supplement his income, now this is something that just really floored me when I was reading about it. Supplement his income, he would go to the local pawn shops, buy the Old West 6-shooters that had been pawned in there, carve marks into the side of them, and sell them to collectors as the pistols he used in Dodge City. So one of the things is, it's hard when people come up and say, I've got a pair of Bat Masterson's pistols. It's really hard to know whether or not they're the actual pistols or the ones he just came up with. So it was, like I said, in the Old West, I mean, really, as the westward expansion happened after the Civil War, it's a really interesting period of time. If you get a chance, look it up. I mean, you got all these characters, Billy the Kid, Doc Holliday. Just because they were in the movies doesn't mean they didn't exist. They were actually these rough and tumble people.
Oh, yeah.
And if you've ever seen one of the guns and the size of the bullets, I don't know how anybody ever survived being shot by one of those things. We were obviously a bit of a tougher breed back in those days. Oh. All right. We told you there's going to be a big announcement today, and there's going to be a big announcement today.
Announce it.
All right. Brant and I have been hard at work. Laura a little bit more behind the scenes back there, who's running the camera for us. We have developed our own series of diggers, specifically for metal detecting. You've probably seen some of the spots going out there. We've been promoting the Yeti diggers, and this is going to be something awesome.
Yeah.
Because one thing you're going to want a good digger in the field, one that is designed by and tested by and used by actual metal detectorists. So coming in February, we're going to have our new series starting up. They're going to be available for sale. We'll probably even do a couple giveaways.
Yeah.
And we'll see you then. Okay, Brant, I think we're about finished for today. Got a lot of good information out there as always.
Absolutely.
And said a lot of big things coming. Next week, we will not have an episode. My wife and I will be traveling. We're going to be seeing Winter Jam. So next week, no episode of Down and Dirty, but we'll be back the following week as we head into February, and we'll be ready to roll with the new diggers and so on and so forth. So if nothing else, keep your coil to the soil.
And your eyes on the prize.
See you next time.